Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to ERA Ultimate Consumer Seminar. How can we maximize our profit with private condominium projects? Most seasoned property investors ask themselves this question before deciding on a property to add on their portfolio. With so many new developments spring up throughout the island, how can you identify the right ones to invest in? Which district in Singapore should you keep a lookout on? Tonight, we are pleased to invite our DD, Kelvin Chen, who will bring us the 3 key advantages of investing in the East Enclave. Without further ado, I shall hand over it to him now. Kelvin, here you go.
Thank you, Wendy. Hi, everyone. Hi, good evening, everyone. All right, my name is Kelvin here. All right, I'm a district division director with ERA Singapore. I started my property investing journey at the age of 25. So this is how I got started and how I got interested with property. I joined this industry in 2013. All right, before that, I was working in a bank for the last 8 years, doing consumer and then corporate banking. I'm still doing sales, and I'm currently leading a team of an associate, I now called Elite Division, and my division itself costs more than $500 million worth of transaction in 2019 alone. All right, so I'm being featured on newspaper. I'm invited as a guest speaker as well. All right, so without further ado, these are some of the photos and highlights of the events and newspaper article. All right, so here is the disclaimer. All right, basically we do our best, in terms of getting all the right information and make the right analysis. However, you still need to make your own assessment and discussion before you venture into any investment. All right, so right now we shall start. Okay, so Singapore, it's 55 years old. All right, so currently this chart is 45 years of private residential property price index chart that we drew out from URA. All right, so of course we can see the property market always goes up and down, up and down. All right, we went through a couple of cycles, all right, namely the world economic crisis, Asian financial crisis, SARS, global financial crisis, and of course the most recent one, the cooling measures. All right, and of course every crisis, you experience market drop. All right, however, there's also instances where market goes up as well. All right, and if you notice, market tends to goes up a lot more than it dropped, and longer duration as well in the last 45 years. All right, so this is what we can gather in the last 45 years of the property trend. All right, there are more percentage of gain than the percentage of loss, and it's a longer trend as well. All right, how about in looking at just a 20 years time frame? All right, in the last 20 years, all right, all residential property price index excluding EC. All right, if I draw a line basically, all right, from A to B, yes, we have been through cycles. All right, technically you can see from A to B, all right, it's always been a upward trend. All right, how about in the foreseeable 20 years, the C, all right, or maybe the foreseeable 10 years to 20 years, will the market continues to trend up? Of course, all this, if you believe in the Singapore brand story, I think your answer should be the same as me, as yes. All right, if not, then why not? All right, but before I continue to share with you, more in details what's so good about the Singapore brand story, all right, let me first share with you a story. All right, this particular story involves Minister Chan Chun Sing. All right, he was conducting a seminar basically, back in 2017, and he was sharing this lovely story that I still hold deep in my mind. Right, so basically he was sharing, say that a group of friends, all right, basically went into the forest, all right, to try to gather fruits. All right, fruits. All right, so while walking in the middle of the jungle, all of a sudden, they meet this tiger. Right? They saw this tiger, and this tiger was looking at them, and looking at them ferociously. And all of a sudden, the tiger start charging at them. All right, and if it's you who are there at the jungle, what would you do? Of course, everybody replied, run, all right? Run as fast as you can, all right? But he answered, run faster than the last person. Then everybody laughed. Yeah, run faster than the last person, all right? And then try to run, all right, to the possible escape route and probably find some help, all right? And then come back and kill the tiger because the tiger is a danger to the village, all right, to everyone, all right? So if you can escape, find a route and then come back and kill the tiger. So I think this got me very good in terms of like, wow, what a story in that sense, because this shows something, all right? More of the story of this particular thing is that in times of crisis, right, when you face a danger, I think everyone will be affected, all right? But try to be the least affected because you are running faster than the last guy, all right? But at the same time, find an escape route, stay ahead, and be prepared when opportunity arises. I think this lovely story, right, brings us to this particular portion right now where we meet this coronavirus. All right, COVID-19, has been evolved, from China all the way to become like a worldwide thing, right? Yeah, so this has been like a worldwide crisis per se. All right, so how can Singapore, position ourselves, all right, to be less affected, all right, in terms of crisis like this, at the same time position ourselves, all right, to, all right, gain momentum and when the opportunity arises. So in fact, if you look at how Singapore has handled, all right, our COVID-19, I think we have gained tremendous praise from many different parts of the country. In fact, even for WHO, where we were given the gold standard. Am I right? Yeah. So actually, yes, we experienced the second wave. I think some of the country were quick to point out that you got second wave and things like that. But of course, we now know, most of the country right now also gather from second wave as well. So we've seen how Singapore coped with the first wave, and then after that, the second wave. And then right now, I think everybody, is really very proud, of how Singapore handled this COVID situation with transparency, all right, efficiency, and effective. So a lot of country has praised Singapore, and in fact, even the Americans or many, foreigners who come to Singapore, who are already in Singapore, who can't leave, right, for sure, they give praise, to how Singapore reacted in this sort of crisis. All right. In fact, I have met up with many tenants who actually starts to come in because I do sales as well. All right. So they themselves also, give praise to our local government. All right. And Singapore continue to be well positioned after post COVID-19. Right. In fact, if you read the news in the last few months, we have seen a couple of news indicating that Singapore topped the world smart city. Singapore retained the top spot as the world most competitive economy. World most competitive economy. And then, and also the recent survey, all right, 2019 to 2020, all the way to political risk, to competitiveness, to ease of doing business, all right, we have been scoring high marks, and we have been in the forefront, among all the Asian financial centers, among all the Asia major cities. All right, so how can we really, we have shown, with this COVID-19, it's kind of like a blessing in disguise, if you want to say, like we are being less, affected in that sense, all right? And then we position ourselves, all right, to stay ahead, right? So that when the opportunity arises, then we can actually take advantage. And that's why I think the Singapore brand has been really very well known as, things starts to clear, where a lot of people are getting treated and get well from COVID and stuff like that. So you see that flow of China news as recent as September, says that, the China tech company comes into Singapore to set up, their as a satellite, to branch out, to tap into the Asia, region, right? So Singapore is the satellite. So as you can see, it's not just one company, WeChat, all right? Many companies, WeChat, Alibaba, TikTok, all right, Huawei, wow, so many, All right, so definitely, it bodes well for our jobs industry. All right, we are able to recruit talent, foreign talent. All right, we are able to give high paying job to our local Singaporean. All right, and basically it's just a continuation of drawing more people to come in, invest in this country and things like that. All right, and even Amazon is also taking over for over some of the office spaces that City has actually left behind. Of course, we all know that this COVID has affected certain industry, but it has not affected all industries. So some is affected less, some affected more. In general, there are always a compensation and things like that. And we'll continue to draw more investment, more talent into Singapore. And this is, wow, 2 days ago, Hyundai is coming in, and set up a car making car making industry for Singapore. Very soon you'll be driving a car that is called made in what? Singapore. Wow, I'm so proud of Singapore. And in fact, if you continue to draw good investment, you continue to spur the economy. And I strongly believe real estate investing has always been a good proxy, to economic growth and activity, because when the economy is doing well, you draw foreign talent because foreigners who wants to live, more people who wants to live and work here as well. And then Singapore would also grow as a result. And then that will draw more investment opportunity where you see good political stability, currency is strong, and all these are really a good platform, for you, to grow your real estate investment. Okay, so, and the good news is that real estate, all right, based on the most recent UBS research report, right, Singapore is considered as fair value. And they actually do a short article is that we are balanced fundamentally. All right, why is it so? All right, basically the Singapore government has really taken a very close approach in the last many years since 2011, where they start to introduce a string of cooling measures and they impose restriction and they impose this and they have that to kind of like control the property market. So I'm not surprised that fundamentally we are really, very safe right now in terms of the investing. And that's the reason why, even UBS, has actually indicated our country, Singapore property market as fair value. And you look at Hong Kong, it's definitely towards the bubbly risk. Yeah, there are many countries or cities that's actually way ahead of Singapore in terms of the high valuation of their property. All right, so let's take a look at what happened in the last 6 months per se. All right, in fact, demand for HDB, as we all know, HDB is no speculation. Am I right? It's really from the bottoms up demand. It's really pure, genuine, no speculation kind of demand. All right, so for the last 4 months, what happens, as you can see from the graph, all right, for 4 consecutive months, all right, it has been a close to 2,500 transactions per month, all right, for 4 consecutive months. This actually surpassed, in a sense, surpassed in the last 2 years of the monthly transaction count. If you can see, the monthly transaction count typically is only below 2,000, of course, except the July 2018, and we all know what is the reason for the July 2018 spike, all right, because of the cooling measure that was introduced in Singapore and that particular fateful night. So as you can see, so the demand has been really very strong. And of course, strong demands means what? And usually when the strong demands, come the supply. All right, so basically HDB resale prices has been up for the last 3 months, and you have seen units such as like Pinnacle at Duxton, recording resale record price even at today's market. All right, mind you, we are still, like what many analysts have said, we're still in the midst of a economic recession, so to speak. Right? Yeah, so is it just about HDB? Actually we've seen high demand in the primary market as well as the secondary market. So you can see, all right, basically you've seen articles like new home sales surge to 11-month high in August, as well as private home resale, all right, hitting high in the last 2 years as well. If you have seen today's paper, all right, you realize that September sales is the highest that's recorded in the last 2 years as well. All right, so this is something that is very interesting. Why? Because we all know that in mid of August to mid of September, all right, actually, it's actually the Chinese lunar 7-month, and typically that is a lower transaction. But yet at the same time, you're experiencing high transaction. And we look at this particular chart, demand for both new and resale condo has been really very strong since the circuit breaker. All right, it's 3.5 times for new primary sales and 5.7 times for secondary sales. All right, instead that proved something that we have been talking about way back in April, that demand can be delayed but cannot be destroyed. All right, so when the demand is being pushed back, then what happens is that it will become like what? A pent-up demand. All right, and when a pent-up demand, it's quite scary when the supply, can't come in time. All right, so of course we have seen this private home sales for Q2, given the flash estimate, it was down 1.1. All right, and then 2 weeks later, when it finally announced the result, it was a reversal of a 0.3% gain. All right, so let me just quickly explain. All right, basically for flash estimate, right, they are using what? They are using up to mid-June data to kind of like put out the flash estimate. All right, but for the full data, right, basically it's going to be a full month of like April, May, and June. All right, so you can see, of course, April and May, the transaction volume is definitely going to be down. No surprise, because we are having this circuit breaker. All right, as much as people wants to buy, people are restricted, in terms of the viewing, because we can only go out for essential activities. All right, so when June opens up, people starts to go in and people starts to view houses and then finally make an offer and purchase. And that's why you can see, with a sudden upsurge in terms of the demand, it actually causes what? The price from a 1.1 down to a reversal of 0.3 gain. So it was a 1.4% kind of like differences. And what about Q3 as well? Q3, the full result is not out yet. The flash estimate is actually 0.8% increase. And in fact, it has kind of like puzzled many analysts, all right? And to a certain point where they actually point out that private home sales may end up 2020 in positive territory. But one thing for sure, all right, the demand, all right, has shown that it is across the board. It is not just particularly on one sector. It's not just like HDB and the rest is not moving. No, it's just HDB, private landed, private non-landed, it's like the primary market, the secondary market. So this is across the board and the demand is real. What about the supply then? If the demand is so high, can the supply upkeep with the demand, right? So let's take a closer look on the supply level, or rather we call it the unsold level, all right? So basically based on Q2, this is a graph that I pull up from URA. All right, if you notice that for second quarter 2020, we have a total unsold units of 29,876. Basically, it's just below 30,000. If you look across, all right, we are actually quite close to the third quarter 2015. Okay, and this is just second quarter. We have not shown the third quarter 2020, because for the third quarter 2020, we all know, all right, it haven't come out yet, but we all know the July, August, and September figure. All right, a monthly new sales has been crossing 1,000 units. All right, so we minus off the 3,000 units, expectedly 26,876 probably will be around there. And if you look where we are, if it's at 26,000, all right, so basically we are a lot closer to the fourth quarter 2016. All right, and is it the lowest point in time for the last 10 years or so? Actually, yes, because if you know that 2015 onwards, the supply, the unsold level has already twinkling down. All right. In fact, for fourth quarter 2012 and for the last 3 years, I would say 2012, 13, 14, we have experiencing unsold private residential unit towards the 40,000 mark. So it is very rare, you know, in the last 10 years or so, we experience, you know, unsold level at, you know, almost like 25,000, except the period of first quarter and second quarter of 2017. And of course, we all know what's happened, you know, in the second quarter 2017 onwards, all right? Because the property market, you know, recorded its bottom and starts to rise from there. Does it like kind of like link to the unsold supply? Maybe, all right? So what about the replenishing of the supply, all right? Basically, replenishing of the supply comes from two angles. One is en bloc, the other one is from government land sales. And for en bloc, as we all know that we hardly have any en bloc since 2018, in fact, almost zero. Then where does the supply comes from? All right, primarily from the government land sale. And what about the government land sale? I actually pulled up the statistic all the way from 2012 until now. All right, basically for government land sale, they have this confirmed list and reserve list. All right, reserve list is provided the developer go and trigger and make sure that they trigger the minimum reserve price. All right, once that happens, then the government will then release it until confirmed list. Otherwise, it will be forever under the reserve list. So in order not to complicate and confuse you all, I'll just take out the reserve list. All right, we just focus on the confirmed list because these are the supply that is confirmed to be in the market, all right, when the land is sold. All right, so if you can see back in 2012, you realize that non-EC, private non-landed, all right, the supply level that is coming in for that whole year is 8,120. All right, of course, it will be absorbed for over a period of time because development, all right, don't just, you know, after the land is sold, the land itself don't just immediately sold to the consumer. No, it takes a while, all right? So basically 2012, 2013, you've seen there are tremendous numbers, figures, all right, being supplied into the market, all right? So of course, we all know what happened, right? Especially the 2013, where the market reached its peak and there was a lot of talk about oversupply because there was a lot of unsold units. Remember just now the earlier graph as well. All right, so as much as there are, you know, demand, you know, absorbing the supply, there are also new supply that is being added in. All right, so it just continue to hold very stable, you know, yeah. So but 2014 onwards, the government actually reduced the supply. So as you can see from the confirmed list, all right, non-EC and EC, and I want to let you take a closer look on what 2020. Are you surprised to see the figure of a confirmed list at 1,930? All right, what it means is that, you know, for the whole year that the government is going to launch, all right, the number of units is less than 2,000, which is not even half of what was supplied in 2018 or even prior to that. All right, so as the unsold level comes down, the supply level is not going up as well. All right, in fact, it's also going down. All right, so I think if you look back into the earlier graph, I think we are a lot closer to the second quarter 2017 mark, all right, than going up to 2012 mark. All right, so when the supply is low and the demand stays constant, and of course, we all know what's going to happen. All right, and a lot of them, they were saying that, the demand was due to what? Low interest rate environment. All right, so how interesting and how can you actually tap on low interest rate? Okay, basically, we all know that based on the current ruling measure, we have to use 3.5% as a basis to calculate, you know, the monthly installment, and then use it as a basis to see how much income, you know, do we qualify for that monthly installment. And basically, it's a gap of it's a ratio of 60%. All right, so if you want to borrow a 1 million loan at a 30 years loan tenure, your minimum income must be at least $7,484 before the bank can approve, you know, your 1 million loan at a 30 years loan tenure. If you have a car loan or monthly installment or personal loan, then you have to earn more than this income. All right, understand so far, yeah? What is the current interest rate? All right, the current interest rate, if you ask any of your ERA agent, they will be able to let you know that it's between 1.1% to 1.3% currently. Most of the banks are offer around this range. All right, so that means we are actually paying around let's just give you a ballpark figure. We're paying at a 1.5% rate. So that means at 1.5% interest rate, your monthly repayment is 3,450, not 4,490. So you kind of like save 1,000. Understand, right? So assuming a person's income at 7,484, if I have to pay monthly 3,400, basically I would have a net disposable income of about 4,200. I think this is still considered good income. I think most people would be able to go through their month safely and have some savings as well. So in that way, you can see how the government is trying to control for you not to like over leverage, where the interest rate is at 1.5 or below, yet they qualify you based on 3.5%. But how much do you know about low interest? Is it just paying less monthly installment? Is it like, instead of paying 4,400, I pay 3,400? Just 1,000 lower? Is it just about low interest? Is it just about that? Actually, no. All right, let me share with you why you should invest when the interest rate is low, because it's really, really very good for you. All right, assuming the interest rate is at 1%, which honestly, for those people who has invested earlier, where they lock in the interest rate earlier, they are paying below 1%. Like for myself, right, my current house monthly installment, my package is below 1%. All right, what does having a low interest of 1% means to you as an investor? Your monthly installment, definitely you'll be paying lesser for sure. All right, so you'll be paying 3,216. All right, on an annual basis, it's about 38,000. But what's the difference is that monthly installment equates to interest payable and principal repayable. Do you know that your monthly installment, right, bulk of it goes to servicing the principal and not goes to the interest? All right, so if I look at the percentage wise, you're only contributing 25% of your monthly installment, right, to pay for the interest. Right, bulk of your monthly repayment goes to reducing your principal. Right, this is very important. All right, if today is 1.5, then the percentage is different. All right, interest payable becomes 35% of your monthly installment. So that means you're reducing your principal repayment lower. Right, put it very simple. Today you pay, for a monthly installment, more portion goes to reducing the outstanding. Today you rent it out. If your rental is able to cover your monthly installment fully, then what happens is that your monthly installment, right, is being taken care, and your tenant is actually taking care of your equity built up. All right, because you reduce the loan more. All right, he helps you to save more in that sense. All right, so if you can see, having a high interest rate up to 3.5%, all right, your principal repayment, all right, from 1% or 74% is down to 35.6. So it's like a reversal. All right, so you should, in my opinion, right, you should take advantage when the interest rate is low, because more portion, all right, it's not just about monthly installment paying lesser, but also the monthly installment, more portion goes to reducing the outstanding principal amount for you. All right, so you should, as an investor, right, you should seriously consider investing right now and taking a bank interest rate. And the good news is that the interest rate will continue to stay low, all right, till 2023. All right, and this is really fantastic news. You've still got time. All right, but the bad news is what? The bad news is that not all banks would want to actually lend it to you. All right, borrowers in job, at risk face tighter processing right now. So it's not all just give, but there's also checks and balances as well. Right, so this is something that you need to actually take note. All right, so having knowing that the supply is low, interest rate you can take advantage of, then which location, should you start to invest in? All right, yeah. So remember, right? Remember the moral of the story? to be least affected in a crisis, and then position yourself to stay ahead, you know, to capture any opportunity arises. All right, so that should be the concept behind any of your investment, all right, strategy. And does all the investment, does all the property goes up and down at the same pace? Of course, the easy answer is no, right? So that's why today my session is to highlight to you which are the area you should, as an investor, you know, consider, you know, going in. All right, and if you know that Singapore is kind of like split into three main regions. We call it the core central region, which is District 1, 6, Marina Bay, Tanjong Pagar, 9, 10, 11, and of course the rest of central region, which is the city fringe, and the outside of central region. You know, in terms of district, we have altogether 28 district, okay, but 14 district is the OCR region. All right, as you can see, the rest are mixed up of CCR and RCR. All right, so you see these words, this terminology very frequently. All right, so I just want you to understand. All right, so I pull out the graph. Basically, this is the last 15 years of how the property price index for OCR, RCR, and CCR. Basically, the CCR is in blue, RCR is orange, and of course, the gray color is OCR. All right, and you can see that, you know, before the great financial crisis, all right, prices go up and then come down again. And you can see that then after that, there was a recovery. Of course, it went back up. And looking at that, OCR seems to drop lesser and increase higher, right? Yeah. And then what about the most recent one, where we have the downtrend because of the cooling measure, all right? And it's between Q3 to 2017, because the bottom is at second quarter 2017. And then from then on, the market continues to trend upwards. All right, so what happens is that if I break it down, if I zoom into details, I realize that almost, of course, everyone is affected, but actually OCR is kind of like the least affected among the three regions. And then when the market picks up, it seems to actually go ahead a lot faster. All right, so how can you position yourself to be least affected and then to stay ahead when the opportunity arises? So I think this is, in my opinion, I think OCR is a region, you know, for you to consider if today you are a first-time investor, all right, or you probably are an upgrader, all right, or probably have you are an investor, you know, looking at your own portfolio. I think OCR a possibility for you to actually go in, zoom in a little bit more, and pay more attention. And looking at the unsold inventory, is it high or low? Actually, for OCR, it's not high as well. All right, OCR is actually quite low at about 8,000, which is only about 30% of what is the current, you know, unsold portion. So I think this gives you a rough gauge, you know, of where, you know, you should concentrate in. Of course, OCR will be the most affordable one comparatively to RCR, and CCR will be the most expensive because it's city center, right? So before I zoom into detail of where to invest in let's say OCR, okay, maybe I shall ask you all a few questions. All right, can you name me which private development, all right, has this following attributes? I have 5 attributes, all right, but basically they must hit all the 5 attributes. All right, firstly, the development must be next to amenities. All right, for example, markets, 24-hour supermarket, or near to F&B. All right, day-to-day living is more convenient. Am I right? Yeah. Secondly, I don't want to have any competition. All right, so within my 500-meter radius, only me myself. I don't want to have any competition. All right. Thirdly, if I want to rent out, I make sure that it's walkable to MRT station. All right, then I can rent out easily. All right, if not, you know, if on days that I don't want to drive, I still can walk to MRT, and I can choose different line, 2 MRT line. All right, the fourth one, if I drive, I don't want to go through so many traffic lights just to hit the expressway. Straight away, I want to hit the expressway. And lastly, in a town that have 3 major established shopping malls, all right, that I can actually go to, I can actually shop to, all right? Which private development in Singapore hit these 5 attributes? Can you all think of any? All right. Is there any such development in Singapore that has these 5, attributes? Anyone? All right. So I think, let me give you an answer. All right. I shall reveal to you. If you cannot think of any private development, let me share the answer with you. All right. It's Treasure at Tampines. All right. If for some of you, if you can get it right, that is the best. All right. If not, Treasure at Tampines. Why? Let me show you. All right. Where is Treasure at Tampines? Treasure at Tampines is over here. All right. Within 15 minutes walk, you can actually walk to 3 MRT station. In fact, Simei MRT is the nearest. It takes just about 7 to 8 minutes. If you draw the line from Google Earth, it's roughly about 500 plus, definitely below 600 meter. If you walk to Tampines West, it's about 10 minutes. If you walk to the Tampines Central, all right, it's about 15 minutes. If you can cut through, definitely it's shorter. All right, it's not just about the MRT, but you also have a lot of shopping malls. In fact, for Tampines, we have 3 shopping malls side by side. We have one, we call it our Tampines Hub, as well, not forgetting the East Point Center that you can walk to within 15 minutes. And if you don't want to walk within 15 minutes, you just want to have your doorstep amenities, all right? You have a 24 hours NTUC just right at your doorstep, okay? And you have the famous Tampines Round Market, all right, just next to you, all right? There's market, there's food court, there's a lot of coffee shop as well. And if you drive, all right, so this is the new route that is going to build and which connects you to the sleep route that goes to PIE, Changi, and PIE Tuas. And it doesn't have any traffic light. So can you see the ease of staying in this development? All right. And the beautiful thing is that, do you know that for Tampines, all right, it's also a regional center. All right. So you're not just investing yourself in a mature estate, but also in a regional hub. All right. And this COVID-19 will likely speed up the shift to decentralized CBD. And regional hub has been an alternative to city living, which has gained traction and which the government is moving towards too. And do you know how many regional center do we have? All right. Of course, this is the URA Master Plan 2019. All right. If I zoom down in it, you realize that the bigger blue portion is what? The bigger blue portion is the Jurong Lake District, which is served the west, Woodland Regional Center served the north, and Tampines Regional Center over here serve the east. And if you see the smaller blue color are the business node, as well as the orange color is the industrial estate and park. So if I draw a quadrant, all right, so this is, I call it first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, fourth quadrant, all right? Which quadrant is closer to the many business nodes? Right, I think you can see very clearly from this particular picture, all right, it's definitely what? It's definitely, Tampines Regional Center. I think this is very important because if you want to invest your money, all right, you want to make sure that it's not just a mature town, but also a regional center. Why? Because there's a lot of economic activities over there. And as an investor, you'll be very safe, buying into this location, and you won't have any problem renting out because most people want to stay near their workplace. And with so many economic activities happening around this area, you'll definitely be very safe in terms of the pool of tenant. And in fact, for the pool of tenant, you will have many diverse industry. You're not just dependent on one industry, and that is very important, especially in today's COVID situation where some industry are booming, some industry are really very badly affected. Am I right? Yeah. So in fact, based on the last year article, you realize that out of this OCR region, which I actually boxed it up in blue, all right, Jurong East, which is the Jurong Lake District, Punggol Digital District, Woodland Regional Center, and Tampines Regional Center. These are in the OCR region, all right? And OCR region, Tampines is the one that is outperforming. And if you can see the growth rate, this is a growth rate per annum for the last 20 years, not just 1 year, 2 year, but for the last 20 years, all right? It's a cumulative, analyzed growth rate. All right, so you can see at 4.9, it's very closely related to our GDP growth rate because, you know, being a regional hub, definitely you have a lot of economic activities happening around the area. And it is important, you know, to be closely to the economic activity. That's why you can see that it's very closely related to our GDP growth. And this is very important because as an investor, you're going in with calculated risk. All right, you know what is the potential and what is the good track record. All right, that you know in your investment that can potentially reap you. All right, so these are the few latest artist impression that I have, you know, for Treasure at Tampines, and you'll be amazed that we have a concierge. All right, a OCR with a concierge service, and I thought it's only CCR. No, all right. So that's why being in a regional hub is really something that is very different. And I think having a concierge in a development in Tampines is really one of a kind, and it's a regional hub is also one of a kind. All right. So it raised the profile, and these are the few things that you can enjoy, like culinary studio, co-working space, you know, the children's studio, and these are all ready for all the 2,203 units and lovely owners that we have at Treasure at Tampines. Or somebody say that, oh, 2,200? Really? So many of units? All right. Most of the time, when I tell buyers that it's 2,203 units, everyone, their face will be like this. All right. Is your face like this right now? All right. So don't worry. Basically, the land size is really huge. Right, it's about 650,000 square feet, almost equivalent to 11 football field. And the good news is that not every inch of the land is being used to build, you know, the unit. All right, 60% of the land is actually zoned for landscaping. So the site coverage is only 40% for the buildings. All right, so units are not like, wow, so close to each other and that kind of thing. All right, so in fact, if you take the land size divided by the total number of units, we have a much lower density than most of the New World development. All right. And I think one thing that is very important, scarcity of a development with so many positive attributes is actually more important than the number of units in the development. All right. When I ask you the 5 good attributes, you can't even name of any. Am I right? Right? Possibly only Treasure at Tampines have. So I believe the demand for these scarcities will definitely, you know, outwin the supply that is available in this development. Correct? The only question is whether you can buy a good unit, good facing in this development or not. And in fact, I actually did a study. All right. Before Treasure at Tampines, which is the largest private development in Singapore, actually is D'Leedon, which is in the CCR region, all right, core central region. If you look at D'Leedon, which was completed in 2014, they have a total number of 1,715 units. All right, next to them is Leedon Residence, which has a much lesser unit of 381. Of course, opposite them, if you're familiar with that area at Leedon area, you'll realize that Spanish Village only have 226 units, even lesser than Leedon Residence. But what about the transaction volume, all right, in the resale market? All right, I pull out the last 3 years. Okay, for 2020, it's only up to September for information. All right, yeah, so you can see, all right, it's not conclusive, all right, that, you know, big units are harder to resell in the resale market because I don't see in the figures over here. In fact, you have also more transaction as well. And more transaction means what? It means it's better. Why? Because it is a lot easier, all right, for you to have a good valuation in your development. Right? Otherwise, the valuers, it's very hard for them to value your property. And that's the reason why a lot of those kind of boutique development, they're facing a lot of valuation issue. All right, so there's pros and cons, you know, to a certain concept of that particular development. All right, so I can show you that being mega development, right, doesn't mean that it's harder to resell. In fact, it has no impact at all. All right, and the good thing is that you're not competing with any of the private developments within the 500-meter radius. All right. In fact, if you pull out a little bit larger, you still don't have. All right. Yeah. So you have to understand that most of the private development here in Singapore are basically built in a cluster. All right. That means you're not just fighting within your own development for buyers or tenant. You're also fighting against the next development. All right. And the next door in front of you and things like that. So if you look at Tampines West in the last 15 years, all right, all the or rather most of the developments are built along this Tampines West, right, Tampines Avenue 10. Right, you realize that that particular cluster will have 4,500 units already. All right, it's definitely more than the 2,200 units. And in fact, if I look at the driveway, right, if you can see, all right, they are, for example, Cubay, Santorini, and Tapestry, they are only using this particular Tampines Street 86. All right, and you can't really go to this Tampines Avenue 10 without having to go through this traffic light over here, this traffic light over here as well, and you are nowhere near to the expressway. And for the amenities, probably you have to go to block 800 plus. All right, and it's not just about Tampines West. All right, it's also about Pasir Ris as well. All right, in fact, if you have friends, if you have friends staying nearby, you will realize that it also built as a cluster. In fact, I have units that is in Dines, that is marketing. You probably next to the expressway, but you don't have the access to the expressway. You have to make a big U-turn, all right, before you can hit the expressway. And that particular cluster itself, again, it's about 4,500 units. All right, so I think it is very important to know the competition level, at the same time the road level in that sense. All right, so if you can see Treasure at Tampines, this is the Treasure at Tampines site plan. All right, this new road, Tampines Lane, which will be the address, all right, for this Treasure at Tampines. All right, something different already. You have a concierge, you have a brand new address, and then it leads you to the steep road that connects you to the expressway, whether is it PIE Changi or PIE Tuas. And mind you, the expressway is not parallel to the development. All right, from here to here, it's already about 60 meters. So you can see it's quite far away. All right, at the same time, you have two, not one, but two main entrance and exit for cars. All right, so you can turn up to Tampines Lane on the left or on the right. All right, you can go to the Tampines West side, or from here, you can go to the Tampines Central side. So you have a couple of ways to move around, all right? And altogether, we have 5 side gates as well. And do take note that we have a butterfly garden on the left, and of course, on the right is the famous round market and the 24 hours NTUC. And the developer has provided double the facilities, all right? So you have really a huge clubhouse, you have a 24 hours gym, you really have a lot of facilities, and you even have a 1-year free shuttle bus service. And a lot of times people are wondering, hey, how much is the maintenance fee? All right, the maintenance fee only starts from $150. It's really very, very affordable. Even if today you buy a 5-bedroom unit, you're only paying a maintenance fee of about $240. This is really, really very affordable because we have the economic of scale. All right, and the so much about the attribute, is it being priced correctly or not? All right, so let me show you how attractively priced is Treasure at Tampines. In fact, we have to thank the developer, right, for having the land sold earlier, having the land bought earlier, because in 2017 is definitely before the en bloc craze in 2018. All right, and the land cost is only at 676. In fact, if I pull out a DBS research report, the estimated break-even price is around 1204 because there was an increase in the development charge rate that was charged by the government. All right, so just take for example 1204. If we want to factor in the profit margin that the developer wants to make, all right, so you know the land cost, you know the estimate construction cost, you know the estimated profit that they want to make, then you will know the selling price. correct? Yeah, so if they want to make 10% profit margin, then they will have to sell you at 1324 PSF. But more often than not, developer will not want to price this. Mind you, this is what? This is a before tax. Before tax, this profit is before tax. So usually they will want to, have a bigger profit. And usually, if you have studied enough, you will realize that most of the developer will price in between 25 to 30% profit margin. All right. Yeah. So in fact, what is the price that this developer has priced? On an average, it's sold at 1361 PSF based on this particular statistic that I pulled up from Edge Property. All right. So what it means is that it is definitely selling below 15% profit. In fact, I told my customer, anything below 20% profit, you should just grab already. Right? Like what I said, majority of the developer, when they price a development, usually their profit margin is between 25 to 30%. All right, let's take a look how attractively priced Treasure is. In fact, Treasure can walk to the regional center, whereas, for example, another units in Tampines West, Tapestry, all right, you probably have to take a bus before you can go to the regional center, all right, and yet we are selling almost at the same price. All right, so this goes to show how attractive, the pricing is. And mind you, the land cost for Treasure at Tampines I have showed earlier is 676. If you have pulled out the land cost for this particular development in Tampines West, you'll realize that it's at 565. So it's already about a 20% gap. And yet, their pricing, it's about the same. So that's why, when the developer is pricing it very attractively, it attracts a lot of interest. And that's why in the last 4 months, units has been really selling like very well. In fact, for the last whole year, all right, it's not just 4 months, but for the last 4 months, we have break 100 units. So you can see that Treasure is already more than 70% sold. All right, and for Tapestry, if you are still thinking you only left last 6 units, right? So if you want to buy the Tampines Regional Center, currently there's only 2 new developments that you have. One is of course Treasure, and the other one is at Tapestry. And Tapestry, you only left the 2-bedroom. Out of the 6 unit is the 2-bedroom. And for Treasure, you left less than 600. All right. So what are the upcoming OCR developments? All right. If you miss Treasure at Tampines. Okay. So these are the units. I mean, these are the project. These are the land. All right. That is we have. All right. But have not sold yet. All right. Can you find something cheaper? All right. Than Treasure at Tampines? The answer is yes. All right. Phoenix Heights, the land was sold at 556. All right. And Canberra as well. All right. Pasir Ris is already higher. But I just want to remind you that land sales that is sold after 2018 July, all right, the government actually imposed a cooling measure, right? The government actually imposed a 5% additional buyer stamp duty on the developer, meaning the land cost after factoring the 5% non-remissible, it should be higher. All right, given the low profit margin that Treasure has, all right, if every of the developer also have this same pricing strategy, then judging by the land cost, you probably only have Phoenix Heights, all right, that you can actually get it lower than Treasure at Tampines. And where is Phoenix Heights? It's actually at Choa Chu Kang, Bukit Panjang. So if you are someone, like that area one, then of course, it's good to go. But if you want, a matured area, a regional hub, all right, then, which have a very good track record, then I think for Treasure at Tampines is probably the last piece of development that you can actually buy here. Of course, before the government release land, or if let's say there's any en bloc for sure. Otherwise, for the same amount of pricing in that sense, you probably have to get somewhere at Bukit Panjang or Canberra, which is in between Yishun and Sembawang. All right, so that is the kind of location that you'll be looking at if you miss Treasure at Tampines. And in fact, even for Pasir Ris, all right, it will be higher as well. All right, so you can see in terms of the pricing, Treasure at Tampines is really, really very attractive. What about the upcoming supplies based on the government land sale? All right, in fact, if you realize that Clementi Avenue 1, all right, which is a land sold in July 2019. It has not been sold yet. I mean, it has not been launched yet. All right, sorry, it has not been launched yet. So that's why I said, all right, when the development gets sold, all right, the developer don't launch it immediately because there's a string of processes that they need to do, and then they need to submit for approval before the URA approve and before they're allowed to sell. So this kind of thing, it takes time. All right, so already in October 2020, it's more than 1 year ago that they won the land, and yet they have not sold yet. They are selling it soon. All right, so that means given the same timeline, you're expecting Canberra not to be sold this year and probably next year, somewhere around second quarter, thereabout, maybe. All right. In fact, if you miss Treasure, all right, what are the rest of the OCR upcoming supply coming in? All right, in the east, you probably only have Tanah Merah. All right, other than that, you don't have anything in the east already. All right, basically these are in the west. This is in the northwest in that sense. All right, and probably Ang Mo Kio in the north. All right, but we don't even have the closing date. So for example, Tanah Merah, it will be closed in October 2020. Right, likely it will be launched maybe around December. Right, but December usually developer don't launch. So what it means is that probably the earliest the developer will launch the Tanah Merah site will be somewhere around 2022, which is 2 years from now. So for the next 2 years, you won't have any new development in the east. All right, so this is what it means. All right, so you can see that actually they are very rare. And of course, if you did pull up some statistic on the RCR land sold over here, you will know that the pricing is definitely much higher than Treasure. In fact, OCR, some of the units are already higher already. Don't say about RCR. So definitely, if you miss the chance to buy Treasure at Tampines, you probably have to buy a much higher price somewhere else. Yeah. So, and how competitively and how attractively priced is Treasure at Tampines? All right. I want you to compare it with the EC. Same thing after 2018 July, the developer will need to pay a 5% non-remissible ABSD. Right, so that means, right, you can see the land cost is really, really very close to Treasure at Tampines. In fact, I want to pull you to Tampines Avenue 10. All right, it's only about 10% difference in terms of the land price. If both developer has the same profit margin concept, all right, then I think the selling price will be about 10% price gap, right? Yeah. So do you know that, you know, during good times, the developer, I mean, the selling price for a private EC and a EC, all right, there's a difference, right? Private and EC, there's a price gap of about 20 to 25% or even 30%, all right? So with a 10% price gap, all right, so that means Treasure at Tampines is really, really very attractive. So you're buying something at very close to EC pricing, which we all know, right? Buying EC is like sure make money, right? Because you're like buying a good unit at a relatively low price, correct? So yeah, so but you're buying Treasure, right, without all the EC restriction. So I think this is something, you know, that you should seriously consider. And having said that, you know, so you talk about the lower supply, you talk about the the low interest rate, you know, the how can you position yourself to really get a good choice unit over here. All right, so basically we have 33 different floor plans. All right, they are all good efficient layout. With the time constraint, I can't go through every of the floor plan, but I want to specifically point out certain things just for you, all right, so that you will know that, you know, by investing in this development, right, this developer has put a lot of thought on the floor plan, all right, and how you can benefit you in the resale market as well, all right. This is one of our show flat layout, which is also one of my favorite layout, all right. So this is Treasure at Tampines 2+ study layout. Why I like it, in fact, I have been selling it earlier in this year as well. All right, so it's really from close to like 200 units right now. It's only sell down to the last 22 units really. Prices are really very attractive. Why this layout is so attractive? Can you realize something? You can possibly enclose this kitchen over here. All right, it is very rare for a 2-bedroom or 2+ study to have an enclosed kitchen in today's current market. All right, so this is how it looks like if you enclose it, and we get a contractor to quote and to design. This is look quite impressive, right? Yeah, so it only costs about $3,000. All right, then you can have, you know, an enclosed kitchen. All right, so if you can see, all right, I want to point out specifically for you, all right, Treasure at Tampines, this 2+ study, the size is 678 square feet, which is 63 square meter. All right, in Tampines, all right, of course, the newly developed project called the Alps Residence, already TOP late last year. They also have a 2+ study. Likewise for Tapestry, they also have a 2+ study. All right, but the key difference is what? Right, both of them, the size is bigger. All right, yes, it's 1 square meter bigger, but it's still bigger. But you can see, right? They have 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1 study. Whereas you can see over here, we have 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom, and 1 study area. Can you see? All right. Even with a smaller size, all right, our layout is more efficient. So this is a very thoughtful developer when it comes to designing. Make sure even though the size is smaller, or even given the same size, all right, I can actually add more value to the buyers, and potentially you can also, you know, enclose this kitchen as well, right? So this is very rare in Tampines in the market. So for buyers who actually buy this kind of layout, what happens is that they will not just buy low, so wow, you'll sure gain, but not just that, you know, yeah, you actually, you know, the developer actually help you to fill up that gap in the market, right? So that when you want to resell it, you have a higher resale value, because this is something that is short of in the market, especially in the Tampines area, right? So this is something that is really, really very important. If you look at the developer, you look at the layout and things like that. And for Treasure, right, the developer is Simlian, all right? They are 44 years in history, all right? They are, if you look at their previous development, you realize that their core value is always to build a huge living and dining area, and they concentrate on the master bedroom, all right? Because they want to give very good, spacious, livable bedrooms, you know, and living space, of course. All right, so that's why you can see that if their layout are typically more efficient, all right, I would say. All right, so this is our 3-bedroom premium layout, which is also happen to be our show flat model, show flat type, all right? So you can see very uniquely, right? Bedroom 2 is 9 square meter. Right? Typically for new developments right now, just sharing for information, bedroom size are typically from 8 square meter to about 8.9 square meter. Hardly you will find 9 square meter. Okay, you will say that, oh, it's quite close. Yeah, I mean, some, you know, of the OCR project, they probably give you 8.5 square meter. But the difference comes when it's a master. But before I go to the master, I want to show you how spacious it is in the dining and the living area. So this is the photo that I took, you know, in the show flat. You can see the width, it's very comfortable in the living area at about 3.2 meter in width. Typically right now it's about 2.6 to 2.8, but this developer, they give you 3.2. Right? So it's really very spacious, and you really have a very comfortable dining area for 6-seater, no problem. In fact, even for 8-seater, based on this layout, all right? And the other thing I want to mention is the master bedroom. Can you see how spacious it is at 13 square meter? This is really very good space planning. And usually for 3-bedroom, all right, people who wants to buy 3-bedroom are usually families, right? All right, and especially if, let's say, I want to have future planning, probably I'll be a young family with growing kids, or probably no kids yet, and I'll probably want to have kids. All right, and this little space over here, and it's not little lah, basically this space over here is quite big. All right, it's, you know, you can comfortably put a baby cot here, so it allows for what? Family bonding. It allows for co-sleeping, you know, with your kids. All right, so I think this is essentially a very important thing, and I think I give credits to Simeon, because, you know, if you look at all their developments, all right, basically they don't just sell for the sake of selling. They look into this kind of really livable space for you, and I think really it's wonderful. All right, and this is something that is, you know, very rare in all the new developments market right now. All right, I believe if you have seen a lot of show flat, you will realize that this is something extraordinary. All right, and the price is very attractive. It only starts from 1.354, which is only 1,311 PSF. All right, so and if you look at the recent article, they're talking about bigger is better for Singapore home buyer. You know, after circuit breaker, everybody is trapped in a house, right? Oh, it's like, wow, after that, you know, people wants to, you know, right size their house. They want to have a bigger house, you know, and probably they also need to work from home more. So what happened is that they really need the additional room. You know, it's no longer about being just enough. They need an extra room so that, you know, they can work from home and their kids probably cannot disturb them and things like that. And if you look at our best-selling developments in August, I just want to quickly point out to you is that Treasure at Tampines, if you look over here, is very attractive in OCRs, you know, at 1,364. Right, Foret, you know, being in an RCR is selling at 1,009, so it's like a $600 PSF more. Right, not just that. If you're looking at OCR, I just want to show you over here below, is 1,006. It's also about $300 PSF price gap. You know, so what does all this price gap means to you? Yeah. All right. One thing, of course, Treasure is really very affordable, right? You're buying in at the lower range of the OCR price, and yet with so much potential because we are a regional hub. All right. So you're not buying at the higher range. At the same time, you know, you're having such gap, not just in OCR, but also very much higher gap in RCR as well. All right. So what it means is that you can upsize your house. All right. So a lot of time when you go to McDonald's and all these, people ask you whether you want upsize or not, right? So for Treasure at Tampines, you know, with the same budget, you probably can upsize, you know, from a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom. In fact, this particular layout, I just want to show it to you. If you don't have a budget of 1.3 million, all right, you can seriously consider this one, because the master is exactly the same size, you know, as what you saw just now in the 3-bedroom premium. All right. All right, so for the living and dining is also equally spacious. It's just that it doesn't have an enclosed kitchen. All right, it doesn't have a yard. It doesn't have a utility. All right, but if you are looking at a 2-bedroom in the first place, you know, typically 2-bedroom doesn't have any utility anyway. All right, and 2-bedroom, all right, basically their kitchen is also open concept kitchen. All right, so what happens is that right now, you know, with the same pricing of about 1.2 to 1.3, you probably can upsize, all right, your bedroom, all right, from a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom, all right. So, and interestingly, based on this layout, we also did, you know, get a designer to design and probably come up with a thing, and you can also possibly enclose this kitchen as well. In fact, this is how it looks like, right? Really very nice, right? So this is where you put your shoe, right? Because this is like a shoe cabinet, right? So, and then at the same time, you can probably use this, you know, to enclose, all right, create some space for you to enclose it as well, right? So this is really a very efficient, very good layout. And then for buyers like yourself, which is looking at 2-bedroom, and then now with the same budget, you can upgrade to a 3-bedroom over here in Treasure at Tampines. In fact, even for our 4-bedrooms, all right, if you look closely, if you have the budget of a 4-bedroom premium, all right, you look at the size of a bedroom 3, wow, 10 square meter, bedroom 2 at 11 square meter. So this is really way beyond normal, and this is really very, very, very comfortable. And I also want to point out to you, we also have a 5-bedroom layout. All right, look at the size of the bedroom. This is really comfortable living. All right, you want to upgrade your lifestyle, you know, you want to give your kids or family or even yourself a better lifestyle, right, by staying in a private development, and yet you do not need to, compensate on the size. You really have a very comfortable size in terms of the bedroom. At the same time, it's really still very affordable at about 2 million. If I look at around Tampines as a region, all the 5-bedroom, we actually lack of 5-bedroom in Tampines. In fact, we only have less than 40 units of 5 bedrooms, all right, in Tampines, all right. And even if it has, for example, like Santorini, all right, it's only at 128 square meter. It's nowhere near 160 square meter. So you are really living it very comfortably with your parents, or multi-generation family, or you simply just want to have more room. You can even knock down this wall and make it into a 4-bedroom as well. All right, so this is something that is really, really very rare in today's market in Tampines for 5-bedroom. All right, so if you are looking at 5-bedroom, probably Treasure is the one that you can seriously consider. In fact, all right, the good news is that for Treasure, we are still giving some of the discount for the different bedroom type, like the 2-bedroom, the 3-bedroom, all the way to the 5-bedroom. All right, so this is a limited time only. All right, and the good thing is that if you are really very interested in Treasure at Tampines, do make appointment with your ERA agent that has invited you today, because show flat viewing are by appointment basis. All right, and if you just really want to see how the show flat look like, please kindly get your ERA agent to also send you the virtual link, right? So that at least you can see how spacious are the different bedroom type, right? So I hope today it's a very fruitful session, all right, that I show you, how to position yourself, all right, to stay ahead and get less affected in terms of crisis. So I hopefully you can, start your investment journey. And the secret of getting ahead is really to start as young as possible and to start as early as possible. All right, so with that, really thank you everyone for such a lovely evening. Yeah, thank you. Any question maybe I can also address if anyone has. All right, someone actually said that is the Jovel a good property investment? I mean, basically every property, all right, in terms of their design and the characteristic, it caters to different kinds of buyer. So it really depends on what you're looking out for, in terms of the design, the location, etc. All right, so I have a very good friend who actually bought Jovel as well. In fact, he really loved the location because it gives serenity, in that location, and because it's all low rise. At the same time, it's a very unique project where it has a very beach-like resort kind of beach water, kind of like look-alike pool. Yeah, so I think it depends on what you're looking at. And currently, there are also some promotion going on. So maybe you can also reach out to your ERA agent, all right, who actually invited you here. So maybe they can also share with you more. Yep. So any other questions? Okay, okay, I have another question. So basically, is it a convenient location by public TPT other than shuttle bus? Oh yes, okay, maybe I can quickly point out to you. There is a public bus stop just right outside the side gate. All right, maybe I can show it to you. Just give me a while. Okay, very quickly. All right, so this is the site plan. All right, so we have the side gate over here. This is the clubhouse area. So the side gate over here, right in front, there will be a public bus stop right outside, right? So there's a bus stop. It takes about 3 bus stops away to the Tampines interchange. All right. So in fact, if you want to take the shuttle bus service, the shuttle bus goes to Tampines MRT as well as Changi Airport. Yeah. So I hope I answer your questions. All right. Okay, so if let's say there's no other questions, all right, really thank you for your attendance this evening. It is really very lovely. All right, and it's good to see
Thank you very
everyone.
much, Kelvin,
Yep.
for your
Thank
lovely
you.
sharing.
Yeah.
I hope everyone enjoy your sharing tonight. We will see you soon. Okay.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Kelvin. Good night.
Thank you. Good night, Wendy. Thank you.